He tore the contract with his own hands, as if every fiber of the paper carried the weight of his despair. He erased the symbol from the floor with salt and tears, swearing never to speak the name again. He burned the book at 3 in the morning, praying with his eyes closed, as if the fire could also erase the guilt for dazed silence. For weeks, relief, he thought, it's over. But that night, exactly at 3:33 a.m., the same whisper returned, cold, intimate, familiar. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was a reminder. Because you can try to break the pact. You can renounce it, run, hide. But there's one thing you'll never erase: else. Interest. In the beginning, it seemed like just another desperate impulse. One of those moments when the soul screams softly, and no one hears it. He was an ordinary man. No powers, no faith, no time. Drowning in debt, with bills pounding at his door, and a son lying in a hospital bed. Each cough felt like a cruel reminder of what the father couldn't do. Life's promises had failed him. The church didn't answer. The bank said no. And his friends vanished. So, alone in the dark, he typed on his phone, how to make an ancient pact. At first, Google gave him jokes, urban legends, and silly videos. But he dug deeper, much deeper. And what he found wasn't a normal website. It was a strange domain with symbols that didn't load properly, and a message that felt like it had been written just for him. The first sentence read, "You didn't arrive here by accident. The price is within you, and so is the desire." It seemed like just curiosity. It seemed like just anger. It seemed like a silent plea to the void. But hell never takes a plea as a joke, because to the eyes watching from the shadows, human desperation sounds like an invitation. He never expected it to come to him. The gray afternoon, a black box with no sender appeared at his door, silent, cold, almost forgotten in the dust of the world. Inside, just a heavy, age envelope, yellowed by time, and a single piece of paper. The contract, too simple to seem safe, too clear to seem fair. No fine print, no hidden clauses, just one condition, written in red ink that looked fresh, almost pulsating. Everything given will be demanded. He read it, reread it, feeling the weight of that phrase like a sentence. There were no promises of eternal riches, no miraculous salvation, only the certainty of a price, and the choice to accept it. With trembling hands, he took a small, sharp blade from his pocket, a quick cut on his finger, blood dripping like a warning. He signed. That night, silence took over the house, and by dawn, everything had changed. The money came, exactly as promised, in piles, as if the universe had poured wealth at his feet, and his son, who barely breathed, choking between machines and hope, was healed. Was it a miracle, or the beginning of hell? In less than a month, everything changed, too fast to be natural, too bright to be just luck. His life, once full of shadows, turned into a spectacle of miracles, unexplainable wealth, fame spreading like wildfire in dry grass, invitations to interviews, magazine covers, a smile open and admired by all, a new house, imposing, like a castle rising from nothing, friends, or at least people, appearing from all sides, drawn by the glow. He seemed to have achieved everything he ever wanted. But the price was beginning to show its dark face. Every night, while the city slept, he heard a strange sound coming from the ceiling of his room. A subtle, almost imperceptible noise, growing louder each night, a scratching. Like sharp nails scraping wood, claws, not exactly. It was as if someone, or something, was scratching at reality itself, as if the edges of the world were starting to fray. And something dark was about to tear the veil separating the possible from the impossible. And he knew that glory wouldn't last forever. For weeks, he watched the glowing symbol on his wrist, a visible mark of the pact he had made. A constant reminder, a luminous prison that followed him wherever he went. But then, one random day, without warning, without explanation, the symbol simply vanished. He looked at his bare wrist, touched the smooth skin, as if trying to feel something that wasn't there. For a moment, his heart raced. I'm free, he thought. The pact has expired. But freedom, as he would soon discover, was not the absence of pain. It wasn't escape from hell. It wasn't relief. It was the beginning of the payment. Because when the symbol disappears, the debt does not. It just changes form. And hell always collects. Desperate, he had nowhere left to run. The money, the fame, the cure, all seemed like a house of cards about to collapse. That's when he heard about a man, a former priest, reclusive, known for dealing with what the world prefers to forget. A man who, they say, could break pacts, but at a price few were willing to pay. He found the old hermit in a remote cabin, surrounded by twisted trees and heavy silence. The ex-priest looked deep into his eyes and spoke with a grave, weary voice. You can break a pact, but hell never forgets the taste of your soul. Even so, he tried. The ritual was brutal. Tears, blood, and screams echoed through the night. Pain that burned his bones, a torment that made his skin sting, like invisible fire. And then, for a moment, silence. A silence so deep it seemed to hold destiny itself. For a whole week, life seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. No strange noises. No shadows moving in the corner of the room. No whispers. No presence. He almost believed he had one. But the calm was a thin mask, about to tear. Because in every photo he took, pictures of ordinary moments, trivial ones, even selfies, something strange happened. A pair of red eyes, glowing like embers, appeared in the background, almost imperceptible, but impossible to ignore. Died in the family portrait and the selfie he took alone. And the image of the new house, dusty and silent, they were there, watching, waiting, and the gaze didn't lie. The peace was fake. Hell never gives up that easily. The nights grew heavy again. At first, they were just brief, strange dreams that faded with morning coffee. But soon, they became recurring, then obsessive. Always the same setting, a dark, endless hallway, and at the end, a red door. At first, distant, each night, closer. The paint on the door looked fresh, as if it had been brushed with something alive. And behind it came a feeling impossible to describe, a heat that burned the soul and froze the bones at the same time. He tried to wake up, tried to run, but every time he closed his eyes, there it was, the damned door, waiting, calling. And then, on the 8th dream, he finally heard the voice, cold, deep, almost whispering inside his mind. You can close the contract, but the debt has already been recorded. He woke up sweating, gasping, heart pounding. But the voice still echoed, as if hell had left its message and was simply waiting to collect. Because hell doesn't vanish, it waits. He thought the worst had passed, that the pact had been undone, that the red door was just a nightmare. But hell never knocks just once. It slips in through the cracks. It happened during a routine checkup, just to ease his mind, rule things out. But what the doctors found made no sense. There are dark spots on your lungs, the technician said, frowning, and also is on your heart and your throat. 3 places, 3 vital points, 3 centers of voice, life, and breath. The scans revealed something beyond medicine, internal shadows, like old burn marks, left by something that had scorched him from the inside out. The doctor tried to joke, but his voice came out flat. Did you swallow fire? He didn't answer. He just swallowed hard, feeling his throat burn, as if the question was more real than the doctor could ever imagine. Because now, the marks of the pact weren't on his skin anymore. They were inside, and they were alive. He no longer slept, no longer ate. He no longer pretended to have control over what was happening. But there was still one thing he wasn't willing to lose: his son. On his knees, in a low voice, looking up at the ceiling as if pleading to something far beyond the stars or far beneath them, he made his final request: take everything from me, my soul, my body, my mind, whatever you want, but leave my son out of this. The response was the worst kind of answer. Silence. No when. No sign. Only a thick, heavy void, as if the universe had closed its eyes for a moment. The next morning, he found the boy burning with fever, eyes rolling back, hands trembling, as if speaking to something invisible. And then came the most terrifying part. The boy murmured words in a language he had never heard, an ancient feral tongue, impossible for a child to invent. Each sound was like an echo from a forgotten place, each syllable a sentence. The pact no longer burned only in him. It had touched what was most sacred, and hell never returns what it chooses to take. Desperate, he tried to run. He changed his name, erased his tracks, left behind the life he knew, crossed borders, changed countries, cities, streets. But no matter where he went, the heavy smell of sulfur insisted on following him like a shadow that refuses to fade, a constant warning that the past was still hunting him. When he finally arrived at the new house, tired and full of invisible scars, a mysterious letter awaited him at the door. No sender, no official seal, just a yellowed, crumpled piece of paper with a phrase written in dark ink: contract terminated, with failure, interest ongoing. He read it once, twice, 3 times. It was a sentence, a warning, a summons for what was yet to come. Because hell never gives up what is its own. And he knew that letter was only the beginning of the next chapter. You can try to erase the pact from your story, pretend it never existed, tear up the contract, erase the symbol, burn the book. But hell is patient. It watches from the silence of the shadows. It waits at the edge of time. It never forgets, and when you least expect it, it collects. Because every choice has its price, and no desire comes without consequences. If this story sent chills down your spine, if it made your heart race, leave a like now. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next mysteries. Hit the bell to be notified as soon as the next dark pact appears. And tell me in the comments, do you believe a pact can exist without a price? Or does hell always take its share?